Okay, folks, welcome to my latest video on Isom, number 2. We're going to be looking at a subject on which I have to confess some amount of ignorance, and that subject is Comic-Con and cosplay culture. So this is not going to be so much a critique video as it is going to be me asking you, the other readers of Isom number 2, or even those among you who have not bought ISOM number 2 but are going to read along with me on these particular panels. And I want to see if there's a particular joke in these panels that you feel you're in on, or does this joke pass you right by? So, before I get into that, I do want to say I watched Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Excellent movie. Excellent, excellent movie. Even if you don't like Miles Morales, and I've made several videos on Miles Morales showing that I don't, even if you're not a huge fan of multiverses, this is a good movie, and I highly recommend that you see it. It's funny, it's smart, it's got action, it's got pretty much everything. This is really what Miles Morales in the comic books should have been. It would have been fantastic. So see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Now, getting back to the actual attraction here, which is Isom number 2. Now, one of the things it says on the cover is, find out, why did Isom quit? And after we have the opening sequence, which I critiqued in my last Isom number 2 video, we get into the why did Isom quit question by going back to a panel starting off saying years ago. And it looks like here we have a Comic-Con floor, a convention floor that is absolutely devastated. It's been smashed all to bits, and there's stuff being strewn, costume elements being strewn all over the place, and there's just absolute chaos. And of course, it's a blank text box, which I'm not huge, or blank of any text or caption or explaining stuff or thoughts or things like that. So I'm not a huge fan of this panel, but it does kind of set the scene. The silence goes on a bit long into this particular scene where we have a young man and a young woman who is in some sort of cosplay outfit, and they're surrounded by a couple of toys and other pages and things like that, crouched in fear behind some sort of desk, and they are apparently terrified of whatever it is that caused all the destruction. It would be nice to have a little bit more dialogue here to just kind of evoke that, but okay. So the girl finally says, I think the coast is clear. You should go check it out to make sure. And the boy replies, absolutely not. You're cute, but I don't even know you. I'll stay here all night if I have to. And then he says, that thing looked like one of the Brigaders from Silo Comics. She says, who? And you're like, what? You're wearing a... Of course. Now, it's that of course that kind of gets me. Now, let me just give you a little bit of background on my own experience with Comic-Cons and with cosplay. I have never done cosplay myself, but I have attended Comic-Cons where there was cosplay present. My Comic-Con history goes at least as far back as 2007 when I traveled to New York. This is the Jacob Javits Center and the incredibly long line that I had to stand in just to get in. And that was where I met for the last time Stan Lee and had him sign one of my comics. And thankfully, I managed to have this picture taken before the battery on my digital camera ran out. So this turned out really nicely. And I also, at that same convention, met Gary Coleman, who isn't related to comic books whatsoever that I know of, so I don't really know what he was being there other than to hopefully get some pictures and get people to pay for some selfies with him. So that's what I did. I watched him on Different Strokes back in the day, and a few of his TV movies, and well, you know, it was just nice to meet the guy. And you might remember he also had a failed run at being the California governor, and I asked him if he was ever planning to run again. He said, nah, I moved to Utah. Later on, I would go to other Comic-Cons, most of them local here to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and that's where I saw Anthony Daniels, who played C-3PO in the Star Wars movies. He gave an excellent presentation in which he actually invited people to come up and reenact with him. a scene from Star Wars. And what was amazing about that is I was sitting there thinking, oh God, can we just like do a Q&A or something like that? Because this is going to bore the heck out of me. But I'll tell you what, when he started the scene, my brain actually like overlaid the background with the site of Tatooine. It was almost like I could see him in his armor. I could see the person crouching on the ground as the droid R2D2. I could see the blue sky. It was an amazing experience, and I never had any idea that such a thing could happen until I had experienced it in this presentation that he gave. So that was one of the epic meetings, and then got to see Robert Englund of Freddy Krueger fame, and the old series, the science fiction series V, if you remember that. And here he is giving someone cosplaying Harley Quinn some instructions on how to be evil, I assume. So yeah, here is an example of someone doing an elaborate cosplay, and I have to admit I've never really gotten close with anybody who has been involved in the cosplay community. Now I have seen people here and there who I thought did cosplay well enough that I wanted to take a picture. Here's one guy who is in a Captain Kirk outfit, and he's covered in tribbles that I guess he all glued on there. And the one that I found was the most creative. If you remember the NBC show Hannibal, there was a motif about a character with like black antlers, and it would be a person who was like covered in black latex or something. So somebody actually came to a Comic Con dressed in like this all black skin and all that kind of stuff, like right out of the show, and also put on the suit that Mads Mikkelsen as Hannibal Lecter would be wearing, and carrying around a fake glass of wine. Really, really elaborate costuming, and that is about as close to cosplay and Comic Con culture as I've gotten, because I don't really go to many Comic Cons these days anymore. So since I haven't had much experience with cosplay, what I want to ask is about this particular dialogue balloon. So apparently he's talking about that thing looked like one of the Brigaders from Silo Comics, and apparently she's wearing an outfit from the Brigaders, and yet she doesn't know what it is that he's talking about. And he goes, "Of course." I guess I really want to know, is that a common thing in cosplay culture? Is that something that you run into a lot of, that he would be making this kind of statement? And what is it? And the other thing I want to know is, did you understand that when you were reading this panel? Did you feel like you got the joke? Whether you are a purchaser of Isom #2, or if you're just reading it now, you look at this panel and you see the sequence of dialogue, and it comes to the end where you're saying, "Of course." Do you understand? Did you understand on first reading what it is he's saying "of course" about? And did you get the joke? Did you feel like you were in on the joke? And moreover, I'd like to hear from you as far as, is this a real thing in cosplay culture, where you have people who are going and they're dressing up, but they don't have the slightest freaking clue about the characters they're even dressed up as? And am I right even about what this joke means? Because, like I said, I'm not familiar with Comic Con and cosplay culture. It could be that he means something entirely different, and the joke's just flown over my head, and I've intuited it to be something other than it is. So if I'm right, tell me I'm right. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. If you feel like you didn't have a clue when you read this, tell me you didn't have a clue. I'm not judging anybody else out there, and I'm not trying to, cause an argument. I'm actually really wondering about this particular facet of cosplay culture, and whether it's really an actual concern within the Comic Con fandom. That would just be something that I'd like to know about. So please do reply in the comments of your opinions of that particular panel and the joke, and what you think the joke means. Did you get the joke? Do you feel like you didn't get the joke at all? Nobody's judging anybody here. I just really want to hear, I tell you a lot about what I think. Here is your chance to tell me what you think on these particular panels. And I just want to know, is this something that resonated with you? When you looked at this, did you laugh out loud and think, oh my God, that is so true? Because I'm just really wondering about that. Is that something that he picked up on, that he's just like, really tapped into the Comic Con and cosplay culture? So thanks for watching this video. Please do leave your replies in the comments. I want to hear from you and find out if this is something that maybe it's some situation that you've experienced yourself, or maybe you looked at that and was just left scratching your head like, what is he even saying? Whatever it is, go ahead and tell me. And please do subscribe and watch for my next video, in which I'm going to cover this Why Did Isom Quit sequence of panels in great and exhaustive detail, because, oh boy, there is a lot to cover. All right. Thank you very much. I'm Mike Bartica. Please do subscribe, and I will talk to you later.